Hello and welcome to my video, which is not on my studio table today. It's actually in my kitchen again. If you saw the last video, I explained that because a couple of my pieces that I'm working on are getting quite big, I need to be at a larger table to actually share it with you also, the progress that I've been making on these things. So that's why I'm in my kitchen. But basically, it's just become my studio every now and again, and I swap regularly between the kitchen and the studio, depending how much space I need. If you saw my studio tour, which I'll put a link to below this video, you will know that it's just a small bedroom at the moment. We do have plans to build an art shed, and I can let you know that our finances have been approved. We are going to go in next week to sign some paperwork, and then we have to go through council approval, getting an architect to draw it up and so on. So it is a process, but we're just being methodical about it and we're going through it step by step. Some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about today is a bit of a change to the workshops that I offer, hopefully to make them more accessible to you. Also, of course, about the projects that I've been working on. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the new embroidery class for beginners. This class will be available for anyone who loves embroidery and would like to try something a little bit different. So I have been working on that over the past week and off and on before that also. So far I have made the booklet with the patterns in it and a bit of a description. And the next thing will be to make up some samples and film those. So I'll keep you up to date with the developments to do with the new class. They are designs that I've done, simplified interpretations of the landscape around me. I have also finally caught up with my circle project with Elizabeth Dane of Dragenkunst. It's not that I don't like working on it, I do, but I was concentrating on the triptych and on the coverlet of comfort. So I made some time this week to catch up on that. So I am now caught up and I'll share those with you today. The gratitude journal is another project, also a year-long project, which I've caught up on. And that's been really good to think over the past couple of months actually since I filled it in, thinking about what I'm grateful for and the things that sort of been thrown at me in life, but which you still try to see the positive side of. I also wanted to ask you your opinion about something. So I will share that at the end of this video. And I ask that you please don't just fast forward to the end, but that you enjoy the whole video and then find out at the end of that what I would like your input on. I do value your comments. I also really enjoy the interaction with you all. As you know, I live in a geographically isolated place, although it doesn't really feel that way. But I just feel so connected to you all, wherever you are in the world. And that's one of the really positive things about having internet access. We're about to improve our internet access, actually. I've been having trouble with uploading speeds for my videos and not always very predictable internet connection and phone connection. So we are changing to satellite internet, and that will happen next week. So hopefully the uploads will be easier because of that. I haven't been very well over the past week. I've really struggled with a bad flu bug of some description, and what that also has done is triggered off some asthma, which I get from time to time. But today I'm actually feeling a bit more like myself, so I felt I could tackle the video. I almost thought I would have to cancel it for this week. I have been stitching, sometimes in my pajamas, because that helps me take my mind off things if things are not going well for whatever reason. I did have to go to the hospital on Tuesday because I'd run out of asthma medication, because it's 2 years at least since I've had any problems. So that was interesting in itself because we had a 2-hour wait. There was only one doctor at a local hospital on duty that day. So I was very glad to get home and get back to having a rest. So hopefully the next week I'll get back to full health, and in the meantime I'll keep stitching. I kept the eco-printing process pretty simple when I was working on this last week. I hinted in the last video that I had spent a day doing some eco-printing and that I would share the results in the next video. So here we are. I used eucalyptus leaves and I also used banksia and onion skins, and I did them in an aluminium pan with onion skins and water. The aluminium works as a reactive metal instead of a powdered mordant, and I wrapped these around copper pipe just so that that would also react with the fabric and work as a mordant. The pot did become quite dark because I had another bundle in there with rusty cans inside, and so that turned the water dark and gave this darker colour even though these were wrapped around copper pipe. So I'll just unroll it for you. As usual, these are reversible, and I've scheduled the fabrics and a couple of other things to be available after this video is over. So I know that my fabrics are very popular, and last time they sold out some within minutes of the video being finished, and I just so appreciate the fact that you like what I do so much. So here are 3 more pieces that I did in the same pot with another bundle. So there were 3 of these fabrics, another bundle of some knitted fabric, and a jumper. So I'll share the jumper with you also today. And if I turn it over, you'll see that it's got some really lovely patterns on this side as well. I'll just move it over in segments so you can see it. So I used 4 types of eucalyptus this time, and they all more or less did an orange colour. And of course we have the string lines, which I really love, and they're more marked on this side. But one of them only did a pale orangey colour, and it seemed to have a little hint of, I don't know, a pink or purple. So the 4 varieties are Eucalyptus regnans, Dalrympleiana, Brucheranii, and Viminalis. They're quite long names, so it takes a bit of remembering. So don't ask me which is which, because I'm not entirely sure, but I know those are the varieties that we've been told are on our property. There's also another one which I don't use very often because it doesn't give me these colours. You can see a little bit of banksia here too, and some onion skins. That's an onion skin print there. The banksia is a bit pale, so I'm not sure if I can actually show you any on this piece, maybe on one of the other pieces. But it does a lovely subtle print, and I do really like it. You can tell here that I did use copper in the bundle because it gives that greenish tone on the wool. So this is another one, also done in the same pot. So very similar results, but they are all unique because when I arrange them, of course, I arrange them all differently. So there's a bit of banksia there. And again, the copper giving that colour at the end. And then when I turn it over, you'll see a different pattern, same leaves, a little bit of banksia there, onion skin. And because there are onion skins in the pot as well, it gave a lighter background. There's the one that doesn't print as orange, but is still a lovely print. And then, of course, the string lines. This one I tucked some leaves on the outside of the bundle under the strings. I used t-shirt yarn to tie the bundles up. And the eucalyptus actually printed beautifully with this dark background, and I really like that effect. The other thing, which I don't know if you can see on camera, is that the stems of the eucalyptus leaves actually emboss into the fabric, so you can feel it, and you can see it as well, that the indentation has remained even after washing and ironing. So there's some eucalyptus, there's some banksia, I should say. Really interesting the way it all prints. And of course these can be used for anything your imagination tells you to. And there's the other side, and again the copper making the greenish mark. And the great thing about having reversible fabric is that you can actually use it in a project where you can see both sides. Otherwise, you'll just need to decide which side you like the best and go with that. And that's the other side. So I'm really happy with how they turned out, and I really hope that these will find good homes. In fact, I know they will. The colours just are so much indicative of where I live, which I really love. It's going to be difficult to show you the cardigan in all its glory, but in the meantime I'll just show you some close-ups to show you the lovely textures in this item of knitwear. It's quite chunky. It hasn't been hand done. It's upcycled, a jumper that I bought from somebody who specialises in upcycled garments. And but it has that feel of a hand-knitted jumper and the look of it. And it's responded really well to the eco printing, as you can see. That's the sleeve. There's a bit more of the sleeve. And it has buttons on the front in a nice natural tone. And then as you get towards the hem or the bottom, it gets darker. And I did that deliberately. That's where it was wrapped around the copper pipe and had contact with the pot liquid, which was quite dark. And you can see it's even got a little border on the bottom there. And I did put Banksia here, so it has a hint of yellow, and then it has the eucalyptus at the bottom and a different variety on the top section. And if I turn it over, this was on the outside of the bundle, so it's got this very dramatic line down the middle of the back, and then it goes down towards where the outside of the bundle was in contact with the pot liquid, and that's a lovely dramatic and dark type of effect. I would say this is a small size, maybe a medium, but I can do the measurements if you're interested in this, and this also is available online as soon as this video is finished. These are leftovers from some fabric that I eco-printed a couple of weeks ago. It was a piece that didn't make it into the online shop because I thought I could keep this and use it myself, which I did. I used them for the holes that I cut out in the triptych, and then I still had this fabric left, and I thought, well, maybe I could do something with that. And I ended up making a little book. I really like the feel of this. It's very soft. And for the pages, I've used the tea-dyed and rusted pieces that I did a couple of weeks ago. So I put them inside this cover. I just folded it in half, and I did a kind of a Japanese stab stitch binding just on the section where the pages are. And then I thought I might start stitching the pages. As you know, I haven't been doing the moon phases, which was what these were for in the group that we're doing this in. But I wanted to do some stitching, and I like having an ongoing stitch project that I don't have to think about too much. And this is turning out to be very enjoyable. I had some threads which pulled out from the edges of this fabric and also my triptych. And these are wool threads. And what I did was I just laid one down on the first page, pinned it, and then stitched around it with a couching stitch. So this one I've done in red, and then the next page I've done with the same wool yarn that was pulled out from the edge of the fabric with a soft green. And now I'm working on this one with a pale yellow. And as you can see, I've pinned them so they're sort of in the right place. But I'm not worried too much if they move. So that one I'm working on. And I'll just work my way through the other pages until I'm finished. And I just really love it. It's a book without words. So you can think of it as a picture book, I suppose. But it's more abstract than that, and maybe people will read different meanings into it when they look through it. On the front, I've used a piece of paper which was an offcut from some of the old sheet music that I use in various projects. And it's called Freedom of Touch. So it was to do with finger exercises for the piano, to loosen your fingers up and make them more free when you play the piano. But I just like that phrase, freedom of touch. And this is so tactile. You just can't help patting it and stroking it because it's beautiful, the vintage wool. And then this Osnaburg fabric that I've used, which I think is a cotton version, not a linen version. But it's very textural and the edges frayed beautifully. So Freedom of Touch seemed like a good name for this. It's not a very bright day today. We've had quite a bit of rain for the last 36 hours or so. And even though it's not raining now, it is quite cloudy. So I hope there's enough light for you to see what I'm showing you. This is, as you can tell, my coverlet of comfort that I'm doing with Kathryn Chambers of K3N Cloth Tales. This is the centre panel, which was the January panel. Then we have a woven panel, which I think was the March one. The log cabin one at the top here was February. And then we had this one for April, which was stars. Instead of doing an extra piece for the month of June, and we're now heading into July, of course, I combined the May and June sections together. So here is the May and June section. I'll just turn it around. And again, it's getting big, so I can't fit it all on camera. But I have 3 Tasmanian birds here. Last time I talked about the fabrics that I was going to join the blocks with, and I chose a Tasmanian design fabric, which is a lovely interpretation of rocks and water and orange lichen, which is quite common on our coastlines. Because it was a bit bright, I tea dyed it, and that knocked it back a bit, and I think now it goes really well with the fabrics in the blocks. The other thing that I've done is I've actually pinned it onto a backing cloth, and I'll be adding some quilting lines here and there in the blocks and in the sashing to hold it down. As you can see in the other section, I'll just move this, there is a lot of stitching. And there is a backing fabric here as well. This was an old pillowcase, and the one I'm using now is also another old pillowcase. And the material is a little bit worn, which makes it beautiful to get your needle through. So I'm thinking of doing some lines, just diagonal lines on these strips of sari silk that I have in each of the blocks. Different colours, they're just beautiful patterns. That's the one for the boobook owl. And this is the one for the robin. And the bonus of that was that the fabric showed through the stitching to show the robin's red breast. And then this is the one for the brown falcon, which I think really suited it. So that's where I will start with the quilting. And then I possibly will echo that on each side of it as well. Whether I'll carry that across the sashings, I'm not really sure, but that usually makes itself known while you're stitching. So if you're not certain of the next step, just start somewhere where you do know what the step is, and then the rest will come to you as you stitch. I have found this to be true over and over again over a number of decades now. So that's where I'm at the moment. I think before I do the quilting, I might do some invisible baste. At the moment I have pins, and the pins can be a bit of a nuisance because your thread gets caught around them. And if you're not sure about invisible baste, quite a few people online do use it as a technique for combining layers together. Not visible from the front, which is quite amazing. So, as I said, I have joined the blocks together. I will now finish stitching on this to hold the foundation fabric to the rest of it, and then I'll work out how I'm going to join it along that side of the coverlet. I've been working this morning to adjust the triptych so it will hang straight, and that hasn't been easy, partly because the material is old and it's not really very straight, even though I tore it and it is on the grain. But the other reason is that I've done stitching in various parts of it, and stitching will actually contract some of the cloth. So I've been fiddling around, straightening the top edge with the rotary cutter, and then folding the top to make a pocket for the rod to go into. And I've nearly got it right. I just need to adjust the two side panels. This is because the left panel was shorter than all the others, and I didn't want to cut off any of the stitching. So I'm just folding over the top and pinning it in place to make them all the same length. So as I said, I've nearly got there. I did have to do a bit more stitching too, if you remember. I had some more stitching to do on the found object on the left-hand panel, which is a bit of coffee plunger. I had already stitched the one on the right-hand panel, which is also some coffee plunger, possibly from the same pot. So I really like how they look on this. And as I mentioned before, this is kind of a topographical piece. And it's about an eagle, which is on the bottom left, surveying the landscape. And we have the Tasmanian wedge-tailed eagle living in this area. It's an endangered species, and it's always wonderful to see them. But it's also about the human impact on the land. So the pink stitching in the patches that I've made, which I'll do some close-ups of, signifies that, but also these two found objects. They made me think of wheels, and wheels and mechanisation really go hand in hand. I've just hung it temporarily over the doors of a big cupboard that we have in our lounge room. It's actually about 2 meters long, and because there are gaps in between the panels, it's probably 1.5 meters wide, so it is quite big. I'm really happy with how it's looking. Once I've got the rod pockets straight so that the bottom edges are level, I will stitch them down from the back so you can't see it from the front, and then I'll be able to try and find a place to hang it up properly. So I hope you like what I've done. The next thing will be to write a description and an artist statement, which I'm still thinking about, and of course the title we decided last week, or I decided last week, which is airy, and that's the viewpoint from the eagle. A little while ago, I did some drawings and I shared them on my video, and I did 5 different designs based on the landscape around where we live, and then made a key with all the different types of stitches that you use. And they're all simple stitches, and it occurred to me that this might make a good design for a beginner's class in embroidery. Of course, that means anybody can do the class, but if you're a beginner, it might be a nice way to start learning some of the stitches and making something that you can be pleased with also. So these ended up becoming a design which I've called Earthscape. Now, Earthscape is a name that I've used for some of my journals and cards as well, and it just seemed like an appropriate name because the earth and the landscape around me are what inspire my work, including these designs. So I've made them into a booklet called Embroidery for Beginners, and a photo that I've taken of the road near our home and the trees. And you'll notice that one of the designs at least has a road or a path in it. And then when you open it, it has a bit of a description about me and what I do, and my qualifications and so on, and experience. And then I've enlarged the designs a little bit because they are quite small. If you see this in comparison, that's quite a small design compared to this, which is not to say you couldn't do them this small, but I thought for the purposes of this exercise, this would be easier to do. And so all I did was to scan these, and there's the road or the path, and I've done stylized plants and trees, hills, sometimes some rocks, roots, and I just thought this might be an enjoyable way to do some embroidery. So my next step will be to do some samples for you and make the videos to demonstrate the stitches. I have some fabric which I've tea dyed. This is a table napkin, and it has some worn bits in it, but I like to use these and just use the good bits. But the worn bit might end up being a feature on something else because I do like that. It's part of the story, isn't it? And so much texture there as well. So this could be a background for my designs. And this is another piece which is linen. I think this is damask or cotton damask. This linen has a hole there and has some embroidery there, which I'll save for something else. But the fabric itself is really lovely, and I think that would be really nice to stitch into. So that's where my thinking is at the moment, and I'll keep you up to date as we go along. I've really enjoyed catching up on my 2 journal projects that I'm doing. This one with Jerry Bellini on her YouTube channel, and this one with Lisbeth Dane on her YouTube channel. And it just is lovely to have these regular things to do in between my own projects. And of course, with all of these things, including the Coverlet of Comfort, everybody puts their own stamp on what they do. So we are not the same. We may have the same prompts and follow the same ideas, but the way we interpret them are all unique to each individual. And that's what I love about it. So here we have the gratitude journal on the top. So I'll just move this one away for a moment. And it's a loose set of signatures rather than a bound book as such. And I really like that about this. And as you can see, I've made this with old dictionary pages, bit of recycled packaging, like brown paper, and just old sheet music. And these illustrations came from the very old dictionary as well as the pages. So that part is now full. This part is on the way to being full. So I've written on each one what I'm grateful for, but not only what I'm grateful for, but the things that I've had to deal with each week because life happens, you know. And I made a little list of some of the things that I'm thankful for so that I wouldn't forget. And one of the highlights also was the open studio that I had just recently. Here we go, 11th of June. For the first time, I had an open studio during the long weekend. I spent all week setting it up, turning our wide hallway into a gallery and shop, and tidying my studio ready for the art trail, part of the Bay of Fires Winter Arts Festival. It was great to have all my work out again after closing the on-site side of the business in June 2024. It was lovely meeting the people who came, and it turned out to be profitable too. Next time I hope to hold it in my new art shed, which we hope to start soon. And the great thing about it is that even if you're feeling a bit low, when you start writing and thinking about the good things, or the fact that, maybe it's a one-off event, if it's something that's been a bit discouraging, you can actually look forward and dwell on the positive. It doesn't deny the negative things, it just means our focus changes. So thank you, Jerry, for encouraging us to do that. My Circle Project album is getting quite thick, but it's also getting quite thick in an uneven manner. And I think I know how I can fix that, so I'll tell you that in a moment. I'll just undo it. And this is the flap which is here for it, ready to expand, because it is going to expand. Has expanded a lot already. I'll just find the right page. So this is week 22 and week 23. And these were the ones that I started with when I was starting to catch up. And as usual, I've sort of done my own thing, but I am following the prompts as well. So the stitch that we were encouraged to do was this kind of geometric square or rectangle stitch. And we were also asked to do strips of fabric on the background before we did our stitching, which I did, but I didn't join the strips together. I just laid them on top side by side. Because I used wool, I think if I had made seams, it would have been too thick. And instead of doing a large circle, like I've done in all the previous ones, like that, I thought I'd let the stitching shine and do a small circle. That's cotton interlock, which has been naturally dyed, and all the wool has been naturally dyed or printed. And the background is also wool, which is a thinnish, more open weave wool. This is vintage blanket, these top pieces. And I used the same theme in this one. So same background, same pieces of fabric or same source of fabric. And then we were invited to do different stitches. In the example given, the pieces were overlapped and covered the whole background, but I just left them with spaces in between so that the background would show through. And then I did a smaller circle again instead of the big circle. And the next two, week 24 and 25, this one I found quite difficult. I really found it quite hard to keep my stitches even, but I just tried to go with the flow as well and not stress out about it too much. I have to admit I did undo the first part of the black that I did because I wasn't happy with it. But then after that, I just left everything as it came. They're supposed to be interlocking. I forgot with the white one. The brown one kind of does. But anyway, it's still an interesting overall effect. This one was supposed to have painted circles, but instead of painted circles, I used some found buttons. I have quite a big collection of buttons of different sizes and colours. And as usual, these have all been mounted on old dictionary pages with some used teabag paper and stamped text. Just to end this video, I'm sitting comfortably on the couch with a cup of tea, And I just wanted to mention to you that I'm now making my 2 main classes, that's intuitive stitching and the grounded class bundle, which is 2 classes in one, into on-demand classes. So they're already evergreen and self-paced, but they're now on-demand also. So I've changed the description slightly at gonerustic.com, and if you just have a look, it gives you an outline of the classes, and then once you've enrolled, you get sent the materials list and the links to all the videos and the notes. So I hope that those people who have been waiting for me to open the classes again can now join in and just enjoy learning some new things, or maybe just extending existing skills. I've reduced the Zoom sessions from 4 to 1 because when the classes are continuous and people can enroll anytime, it would be very difficult to keep track of who had 4 sessions. So we're going to keep it to 1 per class, and that will be up to you to make the appointment with me to do a Zoom session. It's not compulsory, it's just nice to be able to discuss things face to face. And if you have any questions, then you can ask me things that you're not sure about. And also you can do some show and tell, because I love to see what my students are working on and how they interpret the different things that come up in the class. So that's 2 classes, intuitive stitching and the grounded 2-class bundle. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about, I've been approached, and this is the very first time for me, by someone who would like to give me some products in return for promoting them on my channel. I would be very choosy about what I said yes to if I did go ahead with this. So please, in the comments, let me know what you think, and it'll be lovely to hear from you. Thanks so much for joining me for today's video, and I'll catch you next time.